Good morning. I hope you're having a productive morning so far. So this weekly Q&A session is slightly earlier than it would normally be. Normally we're going to settle into a routine of doing it at 12 o'clock. But today I'm on a going to conference later, so we're going to do it at 9 this morning. So as always, I've prepared 3 frequently asked questions that I'm going to cover today, and then if you're on live you can use the chat feature to ask any questions that you have related to starting strength training as an older adult, and then I'll endeavour to deal with as many questions as I can today. If you're watching the replay of this, then in the comments just write your question and then I will review back on those, and I'll either leave a comment or I'll try and include that in next week's video, and I'll cover that as one of the first topics. So my first question today is going to be related to a loss of bone density as a following menopause. So a lot of women come up to me and ask whether lifting weights is actually something that's safe to do following a lot of people are often worried that once they've gone through menopause and they know and they're aware that they're going to lose bone density, whether lifting weights is actually something that's safe for them to do. So the short answer is yes, it is completely safe to lift weight when you have less bone density. And this is kind of counterintuitive because a lot of people seem to think, or that understandably have fear, that if you have less bone density, that by lifting weights there's a risk of injury. And again, if you, like anything, and we spoke about it last week, if you go too crazy too soon, there is a chance that you're going to risk an injury. But if you look at the Royal Osteoporosis Society, so Theros, they say that the 2 things that we should be doing to increase bone density if you've got osteoporosis or osteopenia, which is a kind of precursor to that, is weight bearing with load, and then it's impact exercise. Now they're the 2 things that people with osteoporosis are fearful of. So we do want to you're going to have to change your mindset a little bit in how we start. So a lot of it, like always, is confidence building with the exercises. And then once you've built the confidence, we can start to add a little bit of load and we can start to add impact. But like muscle tissue, bones will adapt to the stresses that we put on them. So if we don't put any stresses on them, they actually will reduce the bone density at a quicker rate. So again, a lot of people fall into this trap of when you've been given the diagnosis that you might have osteopenia or you've got osteoporosis, then there becomes a very fearful, again, understandably, you're very fearful about movement because you suddenly think of yourself as very fragile and your bones are brittle and they might break. And because you then do less, you'll create an environment for the bone density to reduce even further. But what we actually have to do is start to push ourselves out our comfort zone, to start to add load to the exercises we're doing. So starting to work against some resistance, which is what the strength training is going to do. And we're going to start to see that by adding load and adding impact in a slow, controlled way, we create an environment where the bone density is going to build back up again. So in answer to that question, is weight training or resistance training safe for anyone with osteoporosis or osteopenia, particularly following menopause? Then yes, absolutely. As always though, we do have to build slowly. So it's going to be a gradual case of building up to there. If you load the bar up too heavy straight away without preparing your body for it or giving your body any time to adapt, there could well be an injury further down the line. But by doing it in a slow, controlled, progressive way, then you're going to create a nice, robust, resilient body that's going to deal with the demands of that. So again, if you're watching this live, feel free to write a comment in the comments section or in the live chat feature with any questions that you have regarding strength training. And if you're watching the replay of this, then again, leave a comment and I will get back to that. I'm using a new software this time, so it's actually simultaneously going out to YouTube and Facebook at the same time, and it should bring the comments back in. So whilst I'm just talking, I'm just going to have a quick check to make sure that's happening and there's no comments that I've not seen. Perfect, yeah, that's all happening. Good, so what I wanted to do just before I go on to the second question is, if anyone's interested in learning more about strength training but doesn't really know where to start, then I've got a completely free ebook that you can download. So it's a Never Too Old to Lift ebook, and you can get that by going to nevertooldtolift.com/start-here, or you can just go to nevertooldtolift.com, and quickly as you scroll through, you'll see a button or a link where you can download that ebook. And that's going to guide you through all the theory that you need in order to be able to start building and adapting a program around your individual needs, and that you can then continue to work on and progress for a minimum of 12 weeks. So let's hide that again for you. So I've had a question from Lynn. So Lynn says, "Hi Chris, I'm a 61-year-old female." Actually, should be able to bring this on the screen. So let's bring that up there. So yeah, "Hi Chris, I'm a 61-year-old female and I can deadlift. I weight train 3 times a week and I'm too old to split jerk. I'm worried about putting weight through one knee." So I wouldn't necessarily say you're too old for split jerk, but when you're weight training with quick exercises where you've got to control that weight at speed, then there is a higher chance at causing an injury to your knee. So it could well be that if you can do a lot of the controlled lifts at slower speed with a higher weight, then if you really bring the weight right back down again, or even do the movement body weight, then you can start to build that back in again, and you can make sure that your body can deal with the demands of doing it at a low speed, at high speed with low weight. And then if it can, you can gradually add a little bit of weight into that and a little bit more. But you're right in the sense of it may not be able to do it at the rate you were once able to do it, but you definitely want to try and not necessarily just automatically assume that any quick plyometric type movements are something that you should avoid, which is again a lot of people do. They stick with what they feel safe and never really kind of push back out their comfort zone. And we don't have to get back to where you were. It's about where you are now and can we just improve on that a little bit. So initially you can just do things like squats quicker, and then you can do things where you add like the clean motion in, where we're trying to lift the bar up quick and then catch it again, and like you're doing there with the split jerk where we're landing with one foot slightly forwards and having that weight through one knee. So I wouldn't say you're too old for it, or that we have to have these exercises that we can't do, but we do need to be a bit more careful about it when we're starting a bit later on or reintroducing those types of movements. So yeah, I hope that helps. So just put that again to the side. So next question that I'm often asked is, how long will it take to see any results once I've started strength training? So it's a difficult one depending on what your starting point is. So if you've never done any weight training before, that might be different to someone who's done it to a certain point and then had a gap and then is starting again, because there's a slight element of, it's a bit like riding a bike in terms of the movement patterns in your brain, understanding what you're asking it to do. So initially we kind of go through a few phases. So once you get started to do the exercise involved with strength training, you're going to start to just build your confidence with those, and then you're going to start to add a little bit of weight to them so that you're going to start to learn to push your muscles to fatigue. And initially you'll see that your muscles actually feel a lot stronger quite quickly, as long as we get it right and we're not causing any flare up of any injuries that you might have. You find that your brain is learning how to use the muscle strength you've already got in the most efficient manner possible. That can actually happen quite quickly. So again, that often happens sort of through repetition and just practicing the exercise. And each time you come to it, your brain learns a little bit more straight away. Whereas once you've reached a point where your muscles or your brain has worked out the most efficient way of using the muscle strength you've already got, you've then got to wait for your muscles to physiologically change and become bigger and stronger. And that does take more time. So that can take, if you're doing it consistently and you are pushing to fatigue and you're doing it 2-3 times a week, your muscles can take up to about 3 months before you start to have any changes. So quite quickly you go from a point of starting to improve or starting the strength training, you'll find it's those neural pathways that are building and becoming more efficient. So you get quite a quick response up, and then you get what you hear people refer to as this plateau. So you find that you don't progress as quickly as you did at the start of the process. So you find that a lot of people actually give up at this point because it's quite frustrating when you've been seeing fantastic progress and that suddenly slows, but you can't understand why. And if you can't see that you're making progress, or it doesn't feel like you are because it's so much slower than it was before, you tend to find people then drop off then and then go and try something else. And you really kind of need to, once you've picked the exercises you can do each week for each workout, you really kind of need to stick at them consistently 2 or 3 times a week for a minimum of 12 weeks to really give it a chance. And within that 12 weeks as well, you do really need to keep pushing the muscles to fatigue, so that you're not just staying safe, because again, you won't see the muscles grow unless they're getting pushed. And when I say fatigue, when you're doing, say, an exercise and you're trying to do 10 repetitions of that exercise, the 10th one should be pretty much the last one you could have managed. So if you could have managed an 11th, then you're probably not pushed quite hard enough, or you've not used a heavy enough resistance. If the 10th was the last one you could manage, then you've reached fatigue, and it's at the last one where the muscle strength can get stronger. If you got to 10 and you could have done another 5 quite easily, then that's where you weren't using heavy enough weight and you won't see the strength grow. So that's where you do want to add weight next time. And I'll kind of talk about that in the last question that I've got here. So how long will it take to see any results? Answer is quite quickly. So recently I've had some people work through as founding members of the Stronger for Life online course, which I'll mention in a second. And they were all quite surprised that within 3 weeks of doing it, 3-4 weeks, I had someone who was reliant on pain relief for her arthritic knee suddenly found that she wasn't, despite going on a walking trip to the Lake District, she wasn't needing to take any pain relief anymore. It wasn't bothering her. Knee felt stable. And that wasn't necessarily because her muscles had suddenly got a lot stronger in that time. It's because her brain had started to recruit those muscles more efficiently, and suddenly that carried over into her day-to-day life. So again, quite quickly there. Again, someone else within 4 weeks was suddenly waking 2-3 times a night to suddenly sleeping throughout the night. Again, not something that she was kind of ever expecting to be a result of doing strength training, but it's a benefit that she did notice nonetheless, and that's fantastic. So again, results can happen quite quickly, whether they're results in the gym or results outside the gym. Then you're probably going to go through a phase where it all slows down and you don't feel like you're making any progress, and then you'll suddenly realise that you've made a lot more progress than you realise when you look back to see what you were doing kind of 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, maybe even 2 months ago. But it's good to be prepared for that. So if you know that plateau is coming, it's not a surprise, and you know you can work through it and you'll still see progress, then you're more likely to stick to it. So I've kind of mentioned the Stronger for Life course there. So again, all the theory, if you want it, is in that free ebook, which you can get to. So it's nevertoldtolift.com/start-here. If you want a bit more of an interactive way of working through that content and you want some weekly access to me via some group Zoom calls, then I've created the Stronger for Life online course. So that is an online course with lots of little video lessons. So it's split into 7 modules. Each module's got anywhere between 5 and 9 lessons in. Most of the videos are about 5 minutes long, so they're nice little short chunks. Again, it's going to guide you through all the theory you need to know to start a program for your current ability level, and then know how to progress that on. once you've gone through that, you'll learn how to document your workouts and how to make progressions and when to add the weight on. And I say you'll be able to check in with me each week on these weekly group calls. So if you find there's an exercise that you can't do, or I introduce different adaptations for various movement patterns, so you've got choices of exercises to start from depending on your ability level. But if you find that none of them work, or you just hit a sticking point, or you've got some questions, then you can come on the group calls, ask me the questions, I'll go through those and just help you get back on track and really make sure you have that starting point rather than feel like there's something holding you back so you then give up with it. So I really want to help you through that process. So that's something you're interested in. I would hold fire for a couple of days because I do have a Black Friday offer coming on Friday and over the weekend. So keep an eye out on Facebook. So if you've not already followed the Facebook page, have a look on there. If you download the ebook anyway, you'll then go onto my email list and then you'll receive an email on Friday. So if you're watching this before the Black Friday, then be sure to do that. But I'll go on to my last question is, should I do more repetitions or should I use more weight? And this is often something that people want to know. So when you're doing resistance training, say that you start off, and what I normally recommend is once you're confident with the movement patterns, we start to learn to reach muscle fatigue at 15 repetitions, because we know that if you reach muscle fatigue anywhere within 15 repetitions, you're going to build some strength. Now, ideally, if you can get that down to 5 repetitions or less, then you're going to get a lot more strength and less of the size and less of the endurance. Whereas if you're hitting fatigue at 15, you get a lot more endurance with a bit of size and a lot less of the strength, but nonetheless you are building strength. But anyway, so we learn to reach muscle fatigue at 15 repetitions. And then what tends to happen is, because people have already pushed out the comfort zone, they've started to use a weight which they've not done before, and they've gone through that phase of reaching muscle fatigue, which again is a scary concept initially for some movement patterns. You then find that you are scared to put more weight on and go back through something that's out your comfort zone. So the easier thing feels to keep the weight the same and then add on some repetitions. So maybe try and build up to 20 repetitions or then build up to 25 repetitions. But once you start getting beyond 15 repetitions, even though you're reaching muscle fatigue, you're so far away from that ideal of 5 repetitions or less, you're very unlikely to build any muscle strength at that time. So what we want to do instead is, once you've comfortably and confidently reaching fatigue at 15 repetitions with a certain weight, you then want to add some resistance on. So that might be adding a weight, or you might be using a resistance band or a cable machine, or you might just be going deeper into a movement. But yeah, generally you want to find a way of making it more challenging so that you start to reach fatigue at maybe 12 repetitions. And then once you've done that confidently for a few weeks, increase the resistance and the challenge again, so that you then start at 10 repetitions and over a few weeks to 8, and then gradually building up so you can lift a weight heavy enough to make you reach muscle fatigue at that 5 repetitions. And in the book and the Stronger for Life course, I recommend that you do that over a minimum of 12 weeks. For a lot of people that's going to be longer, depending on how confident you are with the movements to get started, but it's not something you're going to jump to in 3 or 4 weeks. It's going to be something that's 3 or 4 months in instead. But yeah, in answer to the question there, if you're looking to build muscle strength, which I'm assuming if we're watching that's you're watching this, that's what you're after, then we want to make sure that you build the weight and the resistance to make things more challenging, rather than keep the weight the same and try and build the number of repetitions. So that is it for the 3 questions that I had prepared, plus Lynn's question there. As a reminder, if you're wanting to take this any further, then you can go and have a look at the Never Told to Lift ebook. And as a reminder again, nevertoldtolift.com/start-here. or just nevertoldtolift.com, and then have a look down that first page, and you'll quite quickly see a prompt to be able to download the ebook completely free of charge. You just need to put your email in, and that'll get emailed straight out to you. And then, like I say, if make sure you tick the checkbox to receive the newsletter, and then you'll receive information about the Stronger for Life course. And I'm going to be running that promotion for Black Friday on Friday this week. Then for anyone watching the replay of this now, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. So if you're in Facebook, leave a comment there. You might be watching us on YouTube. Again, you can leave a comment underneath that. I will check back in prior to doing this next week at 12 o'clock next week, so lunchtime. And any questions that come through between now and then, I will try and answer those first. And then I'll go on to any other questions like I've prepared today. But for now, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next Wednesday at 12 o'clock.